"Hey, mister, could you help us?" The girl turned to me when I was sitting on a bench in the park not far from my house on a sunny Saturday morning. I raised my head and saw that half a meter away from me, there was a frisbee, a plastic disc for throwing, and 15 meters away from it there were two young girls. Without even thinking, I grabbed the disc, jumped to my feet, and made an accurate throw towards the one who called out to me. "Wow, not bad for an old man," she exclaimed in response. "Old man?" I asked, wincing. I knew she was a girl, but I was only 44 years old. Do I really look that old? The girl realized that she had upset me and, trying to be nice, tried to apply some ointment to my wound. "Well, not too old to be someone's grandfather," she said with a smile, while the other nodded and smiled at me as well. "Someone's grandfather? Throw the frisbee back to me." "I'll show you that it's you, old people," I said energetically, my body straightening up and responding to what I perceived as a challenge. The girl threw the frisbee back to me. I snatched it out of the air behind my back with my right hand, and then threw it to the other girl with a quick sideways throw from my thumb. "Wow, very cool. Can you do it again?" commented the first girl. I showed the second one so that she would throw the disc back to me. She did, and this time I took a step back and caught the throw between my legs. I straightened up and threw the first girl with a technique that I call an air cushion. The frisbee first flew down, and then rose and flew towards her. Both girls looked at me as if I had just descended to Earth from another planet. "Not bad for an old man, huh? Do you ladies want to learn how to throw frisbee for real?" I asked. Both nodded and ran up to me. In a minute, I turned from an old man into the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I got down on one knee and spent about 2 minutes explaining and demonstrating multiple throw grips and how to get the disc to wobble in both directions. Then he asked them to move back about 10 meters, and for 10 minutes, we practiced throwing. I caught the disc between my legs and behind my back several times, and once I even tossed it high into the air and then gently caught it with one hand as it sank to the ground. "Can't you teach us this too?" asked the first girl, a thin, long-haired blonde with freckles on her nose. "I can, but first, I think you need to learn how to do normal grabs most of the time. You miss the disc as many times as you catch it." We worked for several minutes to catch him. Like I did when I coached league baseball many years ago, I focused on getting the girls to concentrate on seeing the frisbee all the way to the end of their hands. Suddenly, catching a frisbee became much easier, and everything became more fun. We played for another 20 minutes until the girls ran out of patience and wanted to get on the swing. I remembered that this is typical for 7-year-olds, and was not offended. "Thank you, mister. Now we'll go to the swing," said the second girl. "Do you come here often? Will you be here next week?" To be honest, I had no idea what I was going to do next week, but since I never had plans to do anything else, I said I would come over next week and teach them interesting tricks. They thanked me for my time and ran off to the swing. As I walked back to my apartment, I smiled to myself. I've always enjoyed coaching kids, and to be honest, it's been a while since I've made new friends of any age. The next Saturday morning, I was sitting on the bench again when two teenagers, whom I was told were named Angel and Jackie, returned to play frisbee some more. Instead of the old-fashioned baggy gray sweatpants I'd been wearing last week, I wore gym shorts and a t-shirt, sincerely hoping to look a little younger for the couple. We worked on catching a little more, and when I was quite satisfied with what I was seeing, we began to practice more complex tricks. They both understood that harder meant harder, although I still heard a lot of laughing and giggling. We played for about 45 minutes before they said goodbye and ran off to the swing, but not before asking if I would come next Saturday. I didn't expect the girls to be accompanied by adults next Saturday, but I probably should have expected it sooner or later. If my little daughter had been meeting some old guy in the park for the past few weeks, I would have come to meet him too. I assumed the woman was about 30 years old when she walked straight towards me. He also assumed that she was the mother of the blonde girl, since she also had blonde hair, tied into a high ponytail that fell to her shoulders. She was also thin, weighing probably 50 kilograms, and a height of 1.63 meters, maybe 1.65 meters. I tried not to glare when she approached. "I'm Maddie, Madison Weber. Mommy Angel?" she said, holding out her hand to me. Just wanted to meet the Frisbee guy the girls have been talking about for weeks. Rob Drake, Frisbee guy. At your service, I said, shaking the outstretched hand and looking straight into a pair of bright blue eyes. In fact, the fact that an adult came to check how things are going on calms me down. I myself am the father of 2 children. I saw how she skeptically looked at my left hand in search of a wedding ring, but did not see it. Are your children somewhere in the park? She asked, apparently trying to be doubtful. My children are now 19 and 17 years old, I answered. One is in college, the other is a high school student. The youngest lives with her mother. She clicked her tongue. It was clear that she felt a little better that her youngest was in my presence. Well, then I'll leave you. Nice to meet you, Frisbee guy, she said as she started to leave. What, won't you stay to play? I can teach anyone to play Frisbee, I said hopefully. I'm not blind. I noticed she wasn't wearing a wedding ring either. Okay, I admit it wasn't the phrase of the century. I really didn't practice much in the 2 years after my divorce. She gave me a crooked grin that practically screamed, shit. But then she stopped and turned to me. I'm sure you can't teach me. I don't have a single athletic bone in my body, she said. At this point, her daughter entered the conversation, agreeing with Maddie. No one will mistake Mom for Mike Trout, Angel giggled. The 2 girls stayed close while I taught Maddie the basics of Frisbee. We then split up and played together for about 5 minutes. More precisely, 3 of us played. One of us was pathetic. When this pathetic person broke her nail, she was done for the day. Damn, I just got my nails done on Thursday, Maddie whined. Come on, Mom. It's not customary to whine in the park, Angel said in a childish sing-song voice. Little know-it-all, the woman said. You guys continue. I'll go home and fix this nail. She nodded at me and turned to leave. I swallowed hard, but said nothing, absolutely nothing. The girls and I played Frisbee for about 45 minutes. I can multitask, I can play Frisbee, and I can kick myself for not being nicer to an obviously lonely woman. Walking home, I continued to reproach myself for not being able to attract the attention of a woman. Of course, I told myself I would not have needed this if my wife of 19 years had not cheated on me 3 years ago, which is why I got divorced. Since then, I've had exactly 0 dates. Having married Tracy Wilkins after 2 years of dating when we were undergrads at Michigan State University, I never thought I'd ever date again. It seemed to me that we had an ideal marriage, 2 beautiful daughters. Tracy was a beautiful woman when we met, and 3 years ago at the age of 41 she was still beautiful, at least in my opinion. She has brown hair that goes down to the middle of her back, green eyes, and, well, to be honest, breasts that are almost the size of watermelons are still standing proudly on her ribcage, even after nursing 2 children years before. Over the next 21 years, I repeatedly wondered, how did I get lucky enough to get this goddess? In college, I studied business, and she studied journalism, and we might never have met if it weren't for both of us taking a required course in marketing. There were 15 of us, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that all 7 guys were simply stunned when she entered the audience on the first day. It was clear that the woman knew that she was beautiful, but she seemed to have managed to get along with everyone in the class, which is not bad considering that young women are some of the most evil creatures on earth, especially in their relationships with each other. We became so friendly that a month later I asked her out on a date, and she agreed. Soon after, we began an exclusive relationship, and a year after graduating from university, we got married. No one has a perfect marriage, but I thought ours was pretty darn close to it, which is why I didn't think much of it when Tracy said she and her colleague and friend Carol had front-row tickets to the hottest young singer planet for the evening of the last marketing seminar they were supposed to attend from their company in a month. I had known for several weeks that Tracy and Carol were going to the seminar, but the news about the concert was new. And since I was not born the day before yesterday, I knew that tickets for such a hot show had to be purchased on the first day they went on sale. And this, according to the internet, was a month before she told me about her trip. While I was just curious, my daughters were just beside themselves with jealousy. Nelson Rollo is a 25-year-old former rapper and model who has gone full-time into pop music and is raking in bucket loads of money as the next Mark Wahlberg. He has abs and big biceps, which everyone knows because he rarely wears a shirt when he performs. Mom, why couldn't you buy 4 tickets and take Haley and me with you? Becca whined. Because this is a business trip, honey, and I wasn't going to take you and your sister with me and have you sit in a hotel room for 3 days before the concert. The concert is Friday night, and Carol and I will be flying home Saturday morning, my wife told her. Since when did you become such a big fan of this rap guy? I asked my wife. I've been kind of keeping an eye on him for a while now, she said without looking me in the eyes. I was a gullible fool. I didn't even think about it. After all, she never gave me any doubt. As usual, on both Wednesday and Thursday, she called home around 9 in the evening and we talked about our day at the seminar. As we were finishing up on Thursday night, I told her to be careful at the concert on Friday night. She knew that in Rob speak, this meant keep flirting to a minimum since I wouldn't be around to keep an eye on her. Oh, come on, Rob. There will be thousands of young women at the concert. No one will pay the slightest attention to Carol or me, Tracy said. Carol doesn't bother me, but you, on the contrary. Do, I said. Anyone with a pair of eyes will look at you a second time, and maybe a third. Come on, Rob. You know that I will never leave you, she said. I know, but I always feel uneasy when I'm not with you, I answered. Who calls someone on a Saturday morning at 6:15? Former friend. That's who, I thought, as I heard the ringing of the mobile phone lying on the nightstand next to my bed. The kids were asleep in their beds, and I knew it wasn't Tracy because it wasn't the happy ringtone I'd set for her calls. Whoever it is, his or her ears should be torn off, unless there is a really good reason for calling. Is Molly all right? Who died? I asked my best friend in the world, Carl Franklin, when I answered the phone and saw his name on my screen. I heard a gulp before he started talking to me quickly and loudly. Molly is fine. Nobody died. You are sitting? He asked. Actually, I'm lying down. What's happened? I asked, confusion taking over my mind. First, take the laptop, then turn on the TV. Do it right now, Carl quickly instructed me. Oh, damn, Carl. I don't want to watch stinky cat memes at 6:15 in the morning on a Saturday, I yelled. Shut up and listen to me, he said, his voice suddenly serious, as if he were having a heart attack. I know you're not very familiar with X-Hamster, so listen, he said. Go to this site and scroll down the page. You won't have to search for long. What the hell? What the hell am I looking at? I shouted into the phone when I found it. I stared at him. I stared at it. My stomach began to growl. I closed my mouth and covered it with my hand, but soon I could not stop vomiting. Rob! Robbie! Are you okay? Are you still here, buddy? He shouted. I ran to the bathroom and grabbed a towel to clean myself up, putting the phone on speaker. Then he returned to the bedroom and grabbed the computer again. Oh my God, I muttered quietly. Exactly, Carl answered quietly. Incredibly, on the screen in front of me was a photo of my wife, in the arms of that singer, clearly captured during sex, somewhere after yesterday's concert. Words have failed me. Rational thinking also failed me. I wanted my heart to give up too, so as not to worry about what would happen next. Carl was saying something as I scrolled through 4 photos of my wife having sex with another man. Apparently this singer was married, and Mrs. Kidd Singer waylaid him and my wife in their hotel room after the concert and took some photos. Furious, she asked someone to post them on a site that allowed explicit photos. I guess it's called going viral. The site, which typically focuses on video, posted 4 photos and each received more than 1 million views in less than 8 hours. Crap. Hey, are you still here? I finally heard Carl's voice. Yes, I answered. So it's really her with him? Asked Carl. Yes. She and her friend Carol went to his concert last night after the marketing seminar, I said. I knew she was going to a concert. I just didn't know about... It's all on social networks, said Carl. Not exactly the photos you see here because social media can't post them, but there's a photo on Facebook of Nelson Rollo and a photo of your wife's face in the middle. Well, you get the idea. Scandal announcements. This will be, damn, this is already a nightmare, I replied. And I imagine that every day it will only get worse. How did you find out about this? I was looking through my Facebook posts when I saw a message about the scandal, and I thought I recognized Tracy in the portrait photo. I couldn't believe it. I went to the site and there she was, he said. I'm really sorry. Yes, me too, I said. The following Saturday, Maddie showed up at the park again, ostensibly to watch Angel, Jackie, and me play frisbee. She brought a travel mug of coffee with her and sat on the bench, drinking it and watching the three of us until the girls ran off to swing on the swings. I walked over to the bench and sat down. Perhaps to save me from myself, Maddie started the conversation. You must live very close by if you come here all the time, she said. Yeah, I live about a half-mile west, I said, pointing in the direction of my apartment. And we live half a mile east, she said, pointing in the opposite direction. You and I are almost neighbors, but if it weren't for girls playing frisbee, I probably would never have met you. Have you ever thought about randomness in life? I used to be surprised at a lot of things, I answered, but now I'm not surprised at anything. Understand, you're just numb. It will pass with time, you know. I was in a daze for about a year and a half, she said. Did your ex cheat on you? I asked, slightly shocked. As far as I know, no, Maddie answered. I was numb after he died in a car accident. He was an alcoholic, he was drunk, and it was as if he drove his car under the wheels of a semi-trailer. Sorry. How long ago did this happen? I asked. 5 years ago. Angel was 2 years old. She was very young, she said. So she never knew her father at all, although now that I look back, that's probably for the best. I raised my eyebrows in confusion. She looked down, feeling awkward and looking like she was lost in thought for a few seconds before deciding something. Finally, she sighed. You know, when you're young and party almost every weekend, that's what Avery, my late husband, did. That's what we did in college, and he kept doing it after college, even though we couldn't really afford it if we were going to save for a house and have kids someday. I tried to get him to stop, but he just couldn't stop drinking. I guess this is called binge drinking. As far as I know, he practically didn't drink on weekdays. When I got pregnant, I stopped drinking completely and I stopped going to most parties because I didn't want to be around people who smoked and stuff like that. He walked alone, although I was not happy about it. After Angel was born, I could no longer go to them. Someone had to stay home and look after the child. You know, there was no money for a nanny. But that didn't stop Avery from going for walks. He stayed home until Angel was 3 months old and then started having fun again. From what our friends said, I don't think he slept with anyone behind my back, but he still drank a lot and smoked sometimes. One evening, he did not return home, and at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the police showed up. This was 5 years ago. She sobbed, and I saw tears in the corners of her eyes, but it was clear that she was trying not to let them fall. Sorry, you're the first person I told this story to besides family and friends. It's not something I'm proud of, but that's who we are, Angel and I. She seems like a wonderful child to me. Like the other one, Jackie. Not as outgoing, but they both seem nice, I said. Jackie is the neighbor's child. She lives a couple of houses away from us. Good parents. Her dad, Mike, sometimes helps me with small repair work, Maddie said. You know, you're not at all as old as Angel made you out to be, the woman continued. From the way she described you, I thought you were 55 or 60. Maybe retired. How old are you? 45, maximum. Almost to the point, I said. But I think that for a 7-year-old girl, anyone older than her mother will be old. We both giggled. I looked into her blue eyes. Now or never. Damn, I muttered, completely angry with myself. I saw in her eyes pity. Damn me. Yes. I'll go on a date with you, she said with a smile on her face. Will you go? How did you understand? I stuttered. Women's intuition, she said with a radiant smile. I laughed as if the whole weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. I couldn't even ask you last time, I said. She laughed heartily. It was almost lyrical. You couldn't even ask this time, but at least you gave me a hint, she said. Yes, I admitted shyly. So, when and where? She asked confidently. I'm sure you learned this part of the conversation by heart. How about next Saturday evening? There is a small French restaurant on the south side of town. Seems like an elite one, I said. What is your address? I'll pick you up at 6 unless you want to meet me here in the park, with the nasty character that I am. She smiled back and gave her address. After Angel, Jackie, and I threw the frisbee around for about 45 minutes on Saturday morning, the girls came up to me before running off to the swing. So you're with my mom, right? Asked Angel. She hasn't had too many dates since my father died. You better be really nice to her. You know. I promise, Angel. I'll be really nice, okay? I said, trying to hold back my laughter. But without all the kissing, Jackie said, causing both girls to guffaw. My parents do this all the time. I don't think you need to worry about that, I said, internally hoping that maybe I was wrong. I probably should have just pulled up to the driveway and honked the horn like my daughter's boyfriends did when they were dating, but I knew it wasn't right, so I deliberately got out of the car and walked to Maddie's door, not being surprised when Angel answered. Wow, you look completely different than this morning, Angel blurted out. We talked for a few minutes before Maddie walked into the room wearing a dark blue dress with a low neckline and mid-thigh length. She was wearing very little makeup and lipstick, and she had polished her feathers well. I had barely pulled out of the driveway when Maddie spoke. So I heard from my daughter that you are not a fan of kissing girls, she said. Is there anything else I should know about you? I almost choked to death while driving. It took me some time to come to my senses. That's not exactly what I said. It was the girls who warned me that I shouldn't try all sorts of kisses with you. Like, Jackie's parents probably do this all the time, and it's, ugh, I said. She laughed with her lyrical, sincere laugh. I can't wait to tell Marty and Grace this. They'll just fall over laughing, she said. So, you want to say that you are not against these kisses? Not at all, I said. Walking into the restaurant for the first time in almost 3 years felt like stepping into a time machine. Holding the door open for Maddie, I followed her in, but then stopped abruptly. Maddie heard me stop and turned around. We don't have to do this, Rob, she said quietly. I shook my head to clear the thoughts. No, I'm fine, Maddie. It's time to let go of the past. All the past, I said. Henry, the head waiter, greeted me like an old friend and had the intelligence to ask me to introduce my companion as we were seated. I noticed a couple of people I hadn't seen for a long time, and they both nodded politely at me. I saw that Maddie noticed that I wasn't a total stranger here. Right after we were served the wine and salads, Maddie seemed a little uncomfortable. I knew this would happen, but I didn't want to explain anything to her. Is my dress unbuttoned or what, Rob? Everyone is constantly looking here, she whispered, leaning forward. You really don't understand. Indeed? I asked. Crap? The girls were supposed to wake up in the next hour, and there was no way I could protect them from the impending blow. Besides, I need to meet Tracy at the airport at noon without killing her. As I sat in the kitchen and sipped my coffee, I began to think seriously about whether I could get away with murder if I lived in Texas. Texas juries have always seemed more sensible than juries in any other state. I took another look at the photos on my computer. Hell, they were still there. There was a stir overhead, followed by a blood-curdling scream that could probably be heard 2 states away. This was followed by screams from both girls and rapid steps up the stairs. Oh my God, Daddy, did you seen? Haley screamed, running into the kitchen and freezing when she saw my face. Becca was hot on her heels and actually ran into her when Haley stopped. Both looked at my face and burst into tears, each taking my shoulder to cry. I have to admit that I also joined them. What should we do, Dad? Becca finally asked. I looked at them with the most sincere eyes. despite the fact that my heart was breaking into a million pieces. "Well, the first thing you both have to do is continue to love her," I said quietly. "You know that she loves you, and you both know that you love her, despite the stupidity that she did. She will need this love more than ever, because I don't think I can stay married to her." Both girls sighed. "We understand, Dad." "We understand," Haley said. "But can't you give her another chance? Doesn't everyone deserve to be forgiven for one mistake?" "Under more favorable circumstances, I would probably agree with you, Haley, but this is actually bad. She broke our wedding vows and broke my heart. I can never trust her again," I said squeaky. "These photos are disgusting, Dad." "I never thought that Mom would fornicate on you," Haley said. "You know he's much closer to our age than to Mom's," Becca interjected. "This is wonderful," I said quietly, not thinking about it until now. "Do you want us to go with you to the airport when you meet her? Will this help?" Becca asked. "No, thanks for asking, Beck. I'll take her myself, and I promise I won't harm her. At least not physically," I said. "You understand that the next few weeks at school will simply kill us," Haley noted. "Yes, you're probably right," I replied. "I don't have any good advice for you on that. Maybe since the photos are posted on an adults-only site, not too many of your friends will see them. But this whole thing with Nelson and his wife and Mom is top of mind on Facebook, Insta, and everywhere," Becca said. Tracy looked stunned to see me standing at the airport waiting for her, but quickly lowered her eyes so as not to look directly at me. She approached me as if about to pounce on me with a greeting kiss, but when she saw the expression on my face, she stopped. "I'm so sorry, Rob," she whispered. "Sorry for the betrayal, sorry for hurting me, or sorry for being caught in the guise of the world's biggest slut?" I asked in the same whisper. Her eyes looked up quickly, then down again. Without answering my question, she handed me her bag and we turned to go. I noticed that several people in the crowd were looking at Tracy sternly, and a few had their phones up and taking pictures. "Crap, it's starting." "I don't know what to tell you," she finally said, 5 minutes after the start of the trip. "I know what you saw looks pretty bad." "Pretty bad?" I asked, making air quotes with my fingers. "It starts off as epically bad, and it only gets worse from there, baby." "When buying tickets, did you already plan something like this? You appeared in the front row in a denim vest, unbuttoned halfway. You had more cleavage than most women had tits. My God, Tracy, he's a damn child, not much older than our daughters. These photos will someday end up on the internet, and your grandchildren will see them. How can you even begin to explain this to our daughters? Or your parents?" "My God, I didn't even think about my parents. I'll never be able to look at my dad again," she cried. "You don't even want to know how many views these photos already have," I growled. "How do we get over this, Tracy? Personally, I don't see a way forward." "No, don't say that, Rob," she said. "This is just one mistake. Out of all the time that we were together, doesn't all our time together matter?" "You're right, baby. It's just one mistake. But it's a damn big mistake that the whole world knows about. If only his damn wife hadn't shown up in the middle of your second sex. I and the rest of the world probably wouldn't have known a thing, and you would have had the best memory of your life. Hell, you probably still have the best life in your life, don't you?" In my peripheral vision, I noticed that she had turned crimson. Crap, I'm right. I heard myself breathing like a freight train. He's very good looking, he's got a fantastic body, kind of like a young Mark Wahlberg. And he's still a child. "He has stamina," Tracy admitted quietly. "And with you waving those melons in his face, it was damn obvious he was going to invite you backstage." "Carol went too?" I asked. "Yes, she came with me and also met the whole group," she said. "And Nelson and I went into another room." "Did Carol sleep with someone too?" "Yes. She said she had sex with the drummer a couple of times. They were in another room when Nelson's wife burst in, screaming and swearing," Tracy said. "You can't blame her, baby. You had sex with her husband." There was silence again for a few minutes. Obviously, she was not going to answer my most anticipated question, which was not directly asked. "Why, Tracy? Don't I do this for you anymore? At least tell me why you think you should cheat on me," I said. "I did it because I could, Rob," she said. "He's great, and I just knew that he could be mine. Mine. His wife is beautiful, but I knew I could have him. You can imagine the strength this gave me. To me, no one is 42 years old, but you were hardly a nobody, especially to me. To me, you were everything. You didn't need to bring in a star to prove it to me. I always knew that you were special to me. Am I something insignificant?" I said. Maddie sat in shocked silence as I finished my tale of grief. "Oh, please, indeed?" she practically whispered. "Yes, indeed," I replied. "I can't believe you haven't heard about this before. I thought everyone in town knew about it. A local woman slept with a star singer and ruined his marriage to a star actress. Tell me I met the only person in town who doesn't use Facebook, or whatever it is this week. I am a single mother with a small child. Who has time for social networks? The last thing I care about is stupid politicians and smug actors. When I have free time, I watch sports or read history," Maddie said. "That's why you feel like people are sneaking glances at me. Because they are. They look at me with pity and contempt, and want to see who is stupid enough to be with such a weakling like me," I said quietly. "I think you are paying for the sins of your ex-wife," she said. "What do your daughters think about all this?" At first they were horrified by what my wife did, but gradually she managed to convince them that she had the right to have her moment, to be allowed to break rules or norms of behavior, and that I was just being myself, like a narrow-minded, selfish bastard. I think she told them so often that I was to blame for the collapse of the family that they began to believe it. Relations with my girls are strained, to put it mildly. She cheated, but they're only mad at me. I must admit that I do not fully understand women's logic. Hell, I'm not sure I understand the female mind at all. "You seem to understand Angel and Jackie very well, Frisbee guy," Maddie laughed. "We had a good dinner. In truth, it was probably the best date since the divorce. Moreover, it was the only one. Tracy's company even tried to fire her after her photos were leaked online, citing behavior that was detrimental to the company's image. When I came home from work that day, she was furious. On the way from the office, I called Leon Stong. He's sure I'll be back at work by the end of tomorrow, otherwise these bastards will have a damn serious wrongful termination claim," she said, telling me that she was escorted out of the office under guard. "Our CEO wasn't fired when he had an affair. Why should they fire me?" She was indignant. "Because his real sexy photos didn't make it onto the internet for everyone to see," I replied blankly before turning and going upstairs to change. "No, I was fired because I'm a woman," she shooted after me. "What about your wife's support? What about not cheating on your husband?" I asked, going down the stairs. Apparently, the board of directors of the company where Tracy worked was intimidated by her arguments because by lunchtime the next day, her lawyer reinstated her. When I returned from work, she was already pacing around the kitchen, and the girls were sitting at the kitchen table and enthusiastically listened to the story of her victory. "I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Girls, you can't let people kick you when you fall," she said. I didn't say a word, just shook my head in bewilderment and went upstairs to change clothes. I've been sleeping in the guest room since Tracy came home. We didn't talk about it for a whole week. I think she was trying to wear me down, thinking that if I didn't scream about it, I'd eventually give in and everything she hoped would just go away. I hoped that she would be incredibly repentant and perhaps give me a reason not to divorce her. But in fact, it seemed that her debauchery suited her. Her comfort ended that evening. After dinner, I gave the girls some money and told them to have fun at the movies while Mom and I tried to solve our problems. Both looked at me with complete understanding and quickly left. A few minutes later, I walked into the living room where Tracy was watching something on the screen and turned off the TV. "You want to talk about it, right?" She pouted. "Stop. You cheat on me, humiliate me in front of the whole country, and ruin some idiot's marriage. But you think you have the right to be angry?" I shouted. "I made a mistake. She asked for forgiveness. I can't cancel sex with this guy. What do you want from me? For me to sprinkle ashes on my head. She threw back. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life begging for forgiveness. I must live. If someone has a problem with this, then they shouldn't be friends with me. I took advantage of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I had a wonderful night of sex. If his wife hadn't burst in, you and the rest of the world wouldn't have known anything. I'm not going to date him or become his next wife. This was an amazing one-time deal. Forget about it, she wailed. What about the fact that my wife of 19 years just completely disrespected me and our marriage vows in front of everyone? Obviously, you don't respect me. Oh, please, she interjected. It's just that your fragile ego is bruised because your sexy wife went and got hot sex with some 25-year-old Adonis, and now everyone is talking about it. You and half of the heterosexual male population probably cringe looking at my photographs. Just deal with it. I know my mouth was open in shock when she finished her speech. I expected repentance, but instead I got hit in the face with the old fragile ego shotgun. I arranged for her to be served a week later. Everything went about the same as our conversation. There will be no divorce, Rob. Your feelings are just hurt. You know you love me. I still love you. You don't want to sit in a tiny apartment all alone for the rest of your life, do you? She screamed after she was served at our house. At some stage, the girls moved from resentment of their mother's behavior to acceptance of it and, perhaps, even to some pride in her action. I overheard Haley on the phone telling one of her friends that she wished it was her who was with Nelson instead of her mother. My father's gene was crushed. The problem was that Tracy was half right. I still loved her, but the disrespect she showed me and the lack of trust I now felt was destroying that feeling every day. My fragile ego died the day these photos appeared on the internet. Thanks to these photographs, I received many blows every day. You find out who your true friends are when push comes to shove. Tracy couldn't or wouldn't understand the situation from my point of view. Surprisingly to me, the girls decided to stay with their mother, so Tracy kept the house until Becca went to college. Then it would have to be sold, and the profits split equally. The rest of the financial issues are simple. We both made good money, so it was a 50-50 split. Tracy's lawyer tried to negotiate a better deal for her, but we live in a no-fault state. And there was also the small matter of her publicly cheating. I did end up in a tiny apartment, but it was entirely because of my decision. I didn't need a big apartment because I had no girls with me, no friends, and very little social life. Would you date me if you knew my story before we first met? I asked Maddie 5 years ago, a few weeks before our wedding. She narrowed her eyes and wrinkled her nose, which indicated that she was thinking about how to formulate an answer. We agreed to always tell each other the truth, even if the answer is not always pleasant. However, unlike me, Maddie sometimes goes through a lot of mental exercises trying to make the truth at least pleasant. Probably not, she admitted. I almost threw up when you told your story, and then I went online and checked it out. Everything looked like this. Nasty. I chuckled sardonically. She tried so hard to be nice. How many people use the word nasty? I thought to myself. I don't think I would have had the strength to date you, knowing that everyone was watching you like hawks, waiting for, I don't know exactly what, but I remember that they were watching you. Everyone was probably expecting you to go crazy or something. I think that's what I expected, she said. I was lucky with Maddie. After I told her about my situation, I believe she went online to check. Luckily, she trusted what she saw from me enough to continue dating me, despite all the negative publicity associated with my errant wife. Of course, I had help from her 7-year-old daughter, whom I had become Frisbee friends with a few weeks before meeting Maddie. I taught Angel and her friend Jackie how to throw and catch a Frisbee a few different ways at the local park, and Maddie, being the good mother she is, had to come meet the Frisbee guy both girls were talking about. Obviously, I filled a void in Angel's life, and I know that she definitely filled a void in my life. She was part daughter, part self-confident youth. If I was doing a small project at Maddie's house, she would be my little helper. If I made fun of Maddie, she was my accomplice. She was by my side when I went to the refrigerator for a snack, and she learned and loved to eat such delicacies as leftover cold peas with barbecue sauce. Before I proposed to her mom, I asked Angel if she wanted me to be her dad. So that you could be my real dad? And not just come sometimes? She asked. Your real dad, which means that if you don't listen to me, then I'll be the one who will have to spank your butt, I said with a very serious look. Will you do this to me? She asked, suddenly losing confidence. If I did this to my other daughters, then why shouldn't I do the same to you if you become my daughter? I do not want to lie to you. Well, I think if you did this to your other daughters, then I guess I should listen to you, right? My girl, I smiled. Now that that's out of the way, let's see what your mom has to say. I adopted Angel shortly after Maddie and I got married, and 2 years after the wedding, another child appeared in our family, Mark Philip Drake. I guess I can't blame my older daughters for trying to reunite their parents, but I tried to explain to them as gently as possible that this wouldn't happen. Their mother disrespected me in the worst possible way, and I can never trust her again. She hasn't dated anyone since you got divorced, Dad. I'm pretty sure she was invited, even if the guys didn't see those photos, Becca said, blushing deeply. She's just waiting for you to come back. After the divorce, my girls and I have never been so close. They visited occasionally, but rarely stayed for dinner. The holidays have become another source of sadness. The first Christmas after my divorce, Tracy bought me a present. The girls brought it to me when we celebrated Christmas in the afternoon. I can't come to terms with this, girls. We're not together. I didn't buy her anything, I said. I'm sure she'd still want you to keep the gift, Dad, Haley said. Okay, tell her thank you, I said, placing the gift on the counter next to the kitchen table. I never opened the gift, and a few days later I handed it over to Goodwill. The girls were disappointed to learn that after 3 years, I had a serious girlfriend, but Maddie and Angel won them both over when we met at a restaurant. Angel seemed a little possessive of me at first, but by the end of lunch there was a mutual admiration society between her and my girls. Later, both girls commented that they could see how much affection Angel had for me. This girl thinks you hung the moon, Dad, Haley said. Both girls attended my wedding to Maddie and were thrilled when I adopted Angel. A year later, I walked Haley down the aisle and couldn't be happier. Angel was the flower girl and Becca was the bridesmaid. My favorite was my new son-in-law, Evan Lewis. During the ceremony, I sat between my ex-wife and my current wife. My ex was almost eerily quiet, which I thought was to my advantage. Maddie and I danced on the dance floor a lot, and I danced with Haley and Becca several times throughout the evening. I know Tracy danced with several men, but I was too busy to worry about her. However, about halfway through the evening, my fiancé snuck in and asked me to do a dance with my ex as a favor. I have to admit, I whined when Haley came between me and Maddie. Oh God, Haley, is this necessary? Maddie slapped my hand, Haley nodded, and I stood up and walked over to Tracy and asked her to dance. 20 years disappeared from her face as she stood up, took my hand and led me to the dance floor. I thought you would ignore me all evening, she said as we twirled around the parquet to slow music. We are the bride's parents, you know. We should celebrate together today. She looked at my unsmiling face. Good, good. You don't have to say this. I know it's my fault that we don't celebrate together, she said. Was I really that bad that you needed to do what you did? I asked quietly. No, I was just an out-of-touch bitch. She saw an opportunity and took advantage of it. You were never supposed to find out. Never. Then his wife showed up, and I suddenly became the biggest loser on the planet. But I thought that maybe you would forgive me once, since you love me so much. It was probably too much. Just a little, I said. But it seems to have done you good. She's beautiful and so young, Tracy said. It's not as big a difference as you have with that guy. For God's sake, Tracy, that stupid bastard was closer in age to our daughters than he was to you. She blushed deeply. You know, my parents still treat me a little strangely about this. And I'm not sure I didn't scar Haley for life by sleeping with her crush. You know, she only introduced Evan to me after they had been dating for about 6 months, and even warned me that if I made a move towards him, she would kill me, Tracy said. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Or the fact that young people still come up to me when I'm on the street and ask if I'll go to bed with them? and they don't even hint subtly. People approached me while I was standing in line at McDonald's. "You are her, aren't you? Maybe we can do this." "Oh, please," she stuttered as she said the last sentence. I saw her eyes fill with tears. I had nothing for her, although at that moment I was very hurt for her. I led her back to the table where we were sitting. Maddie saw the tears and gave me a hostile look. Tracy caught it and quickly stood up. "It's not his fault, Maddie. It's my fault. I indulged in memories. It was stupid then. This is still stupid today. Don't make my mistake, ever. He is a good man. He deserves a good woman today, tomorrow, and in the future," she said. "Sounds like sage advice," Maddie said.